Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Laptop Retrospective, and today I have another ASUS. This is actually the ASUS K550L, also known as the LB, and don't let the appearances of this machine fool you and think that it's actually similar to another ASUS that I actually featured on the channel not too long ago. This one over here, as you might remember, is the VivoBook X541 and you can see a video of it up there if you're really curious. And even though these two machines might look very, very similar, they're not. They're really not. Especially in terms of their build quality. You can probably tell already just from the finish on this one, but you can even like hear the difference. So I'm going to remove my microphone here. And you can even hear the difference in the sounding of the plastic. So this is a much nicer one than this one in all ways, with the exception of no USB Type-C on that one. All right, so let's get this one out of the way and talk about the specifications of the one that we've got in front of us here. We are looking at a i5-4200U. It also came in an i3-410U and an i7-4500U. And you had 4 gigabytes of DDR3 low power memory, 1600 megahertz, and you could up it to, I think, 12. And I say I think because I don't know for sure. There is no specifications listed on ASUS's website. However, there are 4 gigabytes on board and a 2 gigabyte stick installed. So there is one DIMM slot that you can populate. Other specifications to note while we're talking is it is a 15.6 inch display, so 1366 by 768. I couldn't find any information about a 920 by 1080 option or a touch option for that matter. Bluetooth 4.0 came standard on these, and I am reading in the specifications that a GeForce 740M was often bundled with these units. The problem that we have is that all of that is being powered by a 4-cell 37 watt-hour battery. Battery life is not going to be fantastic. If we go ahead and open this up on the inside, it has the same weird arrow positions that we saw on the VivoBook. However, there is considerably less flex in the keyboard in some areas, probably due to that optical drive supporting it from underneath. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a quick tour of this machine. So the upward case actually follows the design principles of a lot of their premium line, which is kind of nice to see. Along the left-hand side, we do have the power plug. We do have the CPU exhaust fan, VGA, HDMI, our network port, and 2 USB 3.0, and then our headphone microphone combo jack. Along the front, we do have the SD card reader hiding. And then along the right-hand side, we have the Kensington lock slot, a DVD multi-burner, and then USB 2.0. I'm actually really curious to see how this looks on the inside, if it is very, very similar to the VivoBook. So let's go ahead and dive right into the disassembly process. This is already a huge improvement since the battery is removable. We move the unlock catch and to the left, and our very small battery is removed. Again, 37 watt hours for this thing. I would imagine you would go through this quite quickly. In terms of actually gaining access to the laptop, we do have 2 screws here for removal of this tray. And once that's removed, we have gained access to the disk drive and our single RAM slot. So again, this is being occupied by a 2 gig RAM stick, and there are 4 soldered onto the board just beneath it. Removal of the hard disk is relatively simple. There are 3 screws awaiting us. All right, once it's removed, you can go ahead and push the drive over and then lift it out. This is a standard Western Digital 500 gigabyte drive, nothing too exciting going on there. And I think we're gonna have to take this down further if we wanna see any of the guts. We have a series of screws that are labeled A throughout, and I think we're going to have to remove those to gain admittance. I suspect that this is again going to be a matter of going in through the keyboard. And then we have a series of 4 screws up at the top. And it is worth noting that the optical drive is not removable in the super fast way where you normally see one screw here and then you can yank the drive out. No dice. All right, with all of the visible screws out of the bottom, we're going to go ahead and, yeah, we'll open it the same way that we did the other one. So we'll position our screen thusly. Grab our metal pry tool and start in along the edge between the keyboard and the case. And if experience taught me the last time, it's to be on the lookout for trap ribbon cables. And there they are. So we got 3 ribbon cables here. I'll try to move the camera so you can see them better. They are glued down, so even disconnecting these is not good enough. Like, this is very, very trappish. One thing that I will say once I'm in here is that the keyboard is yet again, that keyboard is plastic welded in, so is the click pad. The actual trackpad itself might be removable. To remove the optical bay, we are going to have to remove a screw that's underneath the keyboard there. And I am looking for a Wi-Fi card, and it's over there. And it looks like if you wanted to remove that Wi-Fi card, you're in for a whole lot of fun. Generally unpleasant is how I would refer to it as, because this cable in particular has been glued down to the keyboard, and it's also been glued up here to the heatsink. So you're having to very carefully pry that out before you disconnect it. And then you have your heatsink in here. The design is very, very similar. The only reason that you would have to open this up truly is to either replace the entire top case, or maybe pull that Wi-Fi card out, or replace a faulty optical bay, or swap it out for a second drive bay. But because this isn't mine, and I want to keep those cables intact, and quite frankly, I just don't want to mess with putting 3 cables back together, we've seen pretty much everything that we really need to see. So let's put this back together and have a few conclusions. All right, now that we have it all back together, let's power it on. Don't think we have charge. Let's go fix that. All right, let's go and power this guy on. Huh. It would appear not to want to power on. Isn't that interesting? So, ladies and gentlemen, I got really curious as to why this wasn't powering on, and I took the laptop apart again, and I took a look at this power switch, which thankfully is a modular part. Like, I was like, phew. But there was a few things that bothered me. The first thing is that I found it in the condition where some of the pins were actually above the blue connector. And I don't know if you can see that, but there are a few pins that are on the wrong side. So that means that the pins along here somehow broke. The other thing that you'll notice that's missing is that there should be a black piece of plastic locking this tab into place. I actually had to take up this double-sided tape just out of frame here to get access to this. So I'm not entirely sure how this piece failed, but I'm not really surprised. With this many ribbon cables double-sided taped down, you're asking for something to break, and it looks like it did. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to be able to turn this thing on. That's all there is to it. I hope that you enjoyed this video. It was an interesting look at why all of these cables are perhaps not very good laptop design. If you would like to see more of this sort of content, I'm going to encourage you to do the big 4. Please like the video, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so the next time I see cable traps like this, you'll be the first to know about it. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time.